Student chronicles fight with university authorities after being assaulted by fellow student. I am not op. Original post by U.Z.T. Freeman in R. Menslib. Trigger warnings. Sexual assault. Less than. Mood spoilers. Sad. Less than. An NBSP. I am a male victim of sexual assault attempting to find justice. But all I have faced are obstacles and hate. April 14, 19. I have posted a lot about my ongoing situation on Reddit. But as my situation continues to go on and I face injustice after injustice, I have to speak out about what is happening. In 2016, I was sexually assaulted by a fellow student and employee at my university. When I reported it, I was warned to keep quiet or I would get in trouble because I was an older man. And my attacker was female. After I reported stalking and harassment from the assailant, becoming socially isolated due to defamation from her and others, and reporting other conduct code violations and crimes, I was illegally coerced out of my apartment lease by the vice dean of students after she entered the apartment without permission in front of a plain-clothed police officer. Shortly thereafter, I became homeless for a time, but managed to stay in class. However, after failing to initially get me removed from class, my attacker and other students involved waged a campaign of hate against me, culminating in calling in a false gun threat that was thankfully dealt with tactfully by the head of security on campus. They have also taken to stalking me online, and even to this day read almost all of my posts and have interfered with fundraisers I have opened to survive this situation. As more and more harassment mounted, I filed more and more complaints with the administration, including a Title IX against my attacker and the other students in 2017. At all turns I was insulted personally by administrators, told that because I was an older man that they had no responsibility to my safety, ridiculed, and threatened. It was later uncovered that the university never contacted any of the students nor followed Title IX protocol at all, and in fact what I at the time believed was a rumor about my attacker filing a Title IX against me was spread around campus. But I was never informed of one either. Upon learning about this, and many other disgusting things such as public readings of rape fantasy stories about me in the dorms, I contacted the Department of Education Office of Civil Rights and filed a complaint. In an extraordinary and rare move, DOCR launched an investigation into the university in late 2018 that is still ongoing. In response, the university hired a new Title IX director who reopened my cases against my attacker and one of the harassing students. Unfortunately, instead of being heard, the process has been used against me to further humiliate me, discredit me, and protect the university. During the first hearing against a harassing student, almost all of my questions that had been vetted were disallowed, yet none were for the respondent. In fact, she had to repeat all of my questions but repeated almost none of his. Furthermore, minimal effort was made to contact all of the witnesses, and the respondent was allowed to collude with them to evade questioning. However, despite this, I made strong closing statements pointing towards the evidence that I was not given to cross-reference during questioning, connecting the disparity between their statements and proving collusion and stalking had occurred. Though this was in vain, as the university took little time in deciding that the respondent was not responsible despite the massive report, evidence, and statements during the hearing. I have filed an appeal with additional evidence and witnesses, but I have no faith that the process was ever designed to be anything more than an attempt to discredit my pleas for justice. The university has many issues, chiefly among them covering up sexual violence, but also issues with dorm housing and food quality. After appearing on local news about issues with food quality making students sick, 24 hours later, the university suddenly rammed through my attacker's counter Title X from 2017. One that I wasn't previously made aware of. And from the discovery of evidence in the previous Title X case I now know was filed on April 13th, while mine was filed 2 days earlier on April 11th, meaning that my attacker was likely made unofficially aware of my Title X and filed one in retaliation. A move that is strictly forbidden under Title X regulations. I filed a retaliation claim with the university, but was again met with terseness. And now her Title X has moved forward ahead of mine. This has a few effects. 1. I can now no longer easily transfer to another university, as I had medically withdrawn this semester from the documented PTSD I now suffer from due to all of these events and wanted to explore that option. 2. Moving forward with her Title X in this way gives my attacker the advantage in evidence discovery. And anything I say in my Title X against her can be chopped up and used against in hers, as they are in theory being handled separately as the university declared. Which is why moves like this are strictly forbidden. This is especially dangerous as the university has assigned the same investigator to both cases and has refused finding another investigator to not bias the process. Lastly, they moved it through at such a breakneck speed. And since all pleas to delay the process while I consult with an attorney have been denied, the university now claims that it has moved past an arbitrary and poorly defined deadline and will now no longer allow me to submit evidence in my defense and has tacitly threatened to find me guilty in absentia. When I threatened further filings with OCR and the accreditation board, the coordinator attempted to threaten to shut down my case against my attacker, and has again set an arbitrary deadline that further hampers the ability to coordinate and plan our next move. At every step, university officials have lied, set double standards, and broken rules to block any chance I have at justice. Through the process, I was warned constantly that I should not proceed because my attacker was allowed to graduate and that they had no power to compel her to cooperate, only for them to continue to railroad and threaten me after I medically withdrew myself. It is clear that decisions made by the university are foregone conclusions, and that I am likely looking at a guilty verdict regardless of how I participate, meaning that my academic future is likely over for the crime of standing up to my attacker and standing up for myself in a climate that does not see men as victims. I am at a loss, and the only power I feel that I have is my voice to document this injustice as it happens so that maybe one day this will no longer happen to anyone else. An NBSP. An update on my situation as a male sexual assault victim fighting for justice. The 1st of July 2019. Hello everyone. I have posted on this sub several times about what it has been like as a man who was sexually assaulted by a female student and how I have been treated. I don't come with good news. The university is sticking with the defamation and gaslighting, and has pushed forward with a hearing against me, protecting my attacker, ahead of my filing even though I filed first. This was likely done so that both my attacker and the university can abuse the process to use it as a kind of early evidence discovery before other hearings, investigations, and court cases, and as a method of intimidation and as punishment for speaking out. I have not been allowed to traditionally submit evidence on defense, nor have I been properly interviewed, and evidence in my defense has been omitted by the investigator. In response to this horrifically unfair treatment, I decided to step in front of the microphone myself and I just sort of unloaded. It ended up being about 2 hours of me talking about Oglethorpe University, the conditions at the school, what it's like being poor surrounded by the rich, and what it is like being harassed, stalked, bullied, and abused for being a victim. I broke them up into 20 to 30 minute long episodes and put them into a playlist here. starting with the original podcast. YouTube link. If you only watch one, the introduction video has some of the later information and recordings within it, and can be found here. YouTube link. These will likely be review bombed, and I am working to backing them up to other services. I wanted to thank each and every one of you for your kind words. They have meant a lot to me. An NBSP. The rape of my person and body is complete. July 15, 19. Hello everyone. I don't bring good news. For those of you who don't know, I was sexually assaulted on campus by a female student, and the university has stopped at nothing to protect my attacker. If that wasn't worth emphasizing before, it is now. Even though I filed a Title X against my attacker first, the university held a Title X hearing where I was the defendant. And in no uncertain terms, one of the charges was that I was sexually harassing my attacker by accusing her of sexual assault and filing against her. I do not mean that this was the implicit charge. I mean that this was actually one of the specific charges. I was found guilty, and I have now been expelled from a school that I had already medically withdrew from due to the continued harassment I faced for coming out as a male victim. At the hearing, I handily proved that my attacker was lying, that the relationship occurred. One of the other charges was that it was sexual harassment, that I claimed we had a sexual relationship, and even that the sexual assault occurred. I was not allowed to submit evidence traditionally. I had to do that in a response letter in which I wrote an 86-page breakdown of the situation with included inline evidence that I citing at the hearing. The opposition had a 60-plus page report that had very little factual data, and her witnesses provided no citations for any of their claims. I was not actually notified about the filing until 3 years after it was made. Had to prove that it was made 3 days after I filed against my attacker and other harassers. I was never interviewed, and the decision to pursue the filing into a hearing was made less than 24 hours after I appeared on the news discussing issues with the university. They rendered the verdict in under 12 hours, in which weeks are usually used to deliberate. After posting about it on Facebook, I have faced a torrent of victim blaming from the camp of my harassers. And frankly, I'm at the end of my rope. My future is gone. My identity has been destroyed. My body has been violated. And my voice was ignored. I do not feel like a person anymore. Edit. I'm going to post this on a few other subreddits who have given me support, some of which this community doesn't agree with, and full disclosure, I don't either. I feel that my views align more closely with this sub in many ways. But I have a deep frustration with how divided we are on issues that should unite us in our common humanity. All I wanted was to be heard and be given my life back. And instead it has largely been taken away from me for speaking out about my treatment and what has happened to me. An NBSP. I feel so completely defeated. The 8th of October 2019. I have spoken a lot about my situation on Reddit, YouTube, in podcasts, and various other places. I'm a male sexual assault victim who has been stalked, defamed, threatened, and harassed by not only my attacker but a group of other students at my university. I was expelled for reporting my assault from a female attacker. Not implicitly but explicitly, and now my life is on ruins. 2 new updates just happened. My attacker has been fishing around trying to find where I now live. And new evidence has been uncovered that conclusively proves that my university committed fraud. The first part. Because the university decided to defend my attacker and all the other students involved. They believe they are above repercussions. And so far they have been. 3 police reports in. Authorities do not want to intervene on my behalf, mostly because I'm a guy. I recorded my recent interactions with police and the sexism was brazen. I was told to buy a gun and that in no uncertain terms would a judge issue a protective order. But after a former student accosted me and tried to press for where I lived at my favorite bar, and others told me she had been coming on and off for weeks casing the place and asking about me, I filed for one ex parte. I discovered that she learned my roommate's nickname and had managed to find out where he volunteered. And we confirmed that they had begun working their way down the list of people spreading the defamation and trying to find my address under the guise of needing it to file a protective order of their own. I took that, petitioned the judge, and was awarded one for 30 days with a hearing scheduled for a 12-month one. That hearing was today and it was dismissed because while witnesses confirmed this via chat, no one would come to court. They were all too afraid to. They have seen what has happened to me, witnessed directly how much of a nightmare this is. And they don't want a bunch of rich kids with connect parents ruin their lives too. I already had another student cave on the stand as a witness during a warrant application hearing, because he was threatened with social isolation, and the opposition brought the majority of the martial arts club to the courtroom as an intimidation tactic. The only silver lining is that her counter motion was denied out of hand because it was super crazy. And she brought this weird 90-year-old dude into the courtroom who wasn't her attorney but tried to act as one. So bizarre. I feel so defeated. When it really mattered, no one was there. Plus, the new evidence against the university uncovers just how completely corrupt the institution is and just how unsafe I was as a student there. My safety was never, ever, a priority, and I was seen as a legal and PR threat the moment I reported anything. Edit. Forgot to finish this thought. The new evidence proves that my expulsion and everything else was cooked up primitively. The hearings, investigations, all of it was theater. I feel utterly betrayed and in the most intimate ways violated. An NBSP reminder: I am not the original poster. Here's another crazy update. https www.reddit.com/r/menslib/comments/c8 urgent update in my fight with my university for UTM source equals share and UTM medium equals iOS app and UTM name equals iOS SMF. Looking into this, I've learned one thing. I'm glad my country doesn't heavily rely on privatized higher education for many reasons. What is with them being a self-governing organization and using campus police? For real? Don't you report sexual assault to the actual authorities? Am I naive? This is such a heartbreaking and frustrating situation to hear about. I had a stalker in college and I was too young and dumb to know that I should have gone to the police. I reported him to my teacher and he was transferred to a different lab. But they did nothing. For over 6 months he would park outside my apartment. I lived alone, and text me constantly. He was always at my job and he knew my whole schedule, down to which yoga classes I took, and the studio I went to, and followed me everywhere. I was lucky enough to have friends and family believe me, and they eventually scared him off. But the school didn't do anything other than hide it. Having an older brother in a metal band and some tough-looking dudes as friends saved me. IDK what happened. But they took care of it and I never saw him again. I can't imagine how hard this was for him to not be believed and then have his entire life and reputation destroyed. Men can be sexually harassed and assaulted too. I'm very impressed that Oop was brave enough to keep telling his story. I really hope he gets some type of closure and peace. Edited to correct. I accidentally said he was moved to a different lab. But I meant lab table. He was still in my class and my lab. But he was moved to a different table, where he would stare at me for hours a week. The school did the absolute bare minimum to help me. And I thought campus security was connected to the police. They believed me fully and didn't do much. I can't imagine how hard it would have been if they thought I was lying. Apologies for not being clear. Title X is a mess of a system and has been grossly expanded beyond its abilities. I have no idea why OP continued with the university process here. Especially if, as he says, he has proof of the university breaking Title X procedures in this process. This should have moved to a civil suit against the university. Most universities are certainly settling a lot that have to do with Title X investigations. Not so fun fact. The university mentioned was investigated for poor handling of 2 SAW cases prior to OOPS. One in 2012 and another in 2013. There are a couple of videos with screen caps of various documents on his YouTube. I watched a bit of it, but I have no conclusion either way. It is so heartbreaking to read about male sexual assault victims who are not supported simply due to being a man. Anyone can be sexually assaulted, and ignoring issues like this only contributes to the victim's trauma. That really goes for all victims. Okay, I'll get started. I used to work somewhere where a lot of investigations like this crossed my desk. That is, internal investigations of sexual harassment, assault where the police either weren't called in, or the police were called, and couldn't move forward because there wasn't enough evidence. I didn't do the actual investigation, but I was the admin person who would receive the reports, proofread, and format them. One thing I learned, often if there's not enough evidence for the police to do anything about it, there's not enough evidence to administratively punish someone for it either. At least, if you want to be fair about the situation and not punish someone without proof. Administrative reporting is not a format you should go to if you are looking to punish someone. This is a format you should go to if you have a reasonable request that the administration can reasonably fulfill. Like, if someone is harassing you, and you can sorta corroborate that but not have the ironclad proof required for the legal system, it might make sense to go to the university with your evidence and ask them to ban the person from your dorm. You can hope for more, certainly, but don't hold your breath. If this story is true, I'm sorry OOP experienced that kind of revictimization, but I'm really unclear what OOP wanted the university to realistically do. Ideally, for the level of victimization that he states, this would be a police matter. Instead, he took it to the university. I'm not entirely sure why, but okay. One big problem with that, he seems to have no idea what reasonable redress he is seeking. Another big problem, he states the woman who did this already graduated. Did he want the university to take away her degree? Not going to happen unless this is a plagiarism issue. Send her a sternly worded letter? What? OOP absolutely doesn't deserve what happened. But I'm still unclear on why he chose to handle it the way he did. If he just wanted punishment, the legal system is best positioned to take care of that, not the university administrative process. This whole complaint seemed destined to fail, even if everyone was fair and above board. Because OOP seemed to be asking the university to do something it wasn't really equipped to do. Name and shame the university. If this is all true, I feel for him, but I will say that this whole thing comes across as unhinged and suspicious. If this is how he comforts himself IRL, and he doesn't have a lawyer every step of the way, I can definitely see him not being believed. Oh man, I was raped at university by someone in the same halls of residence. I'm female, and having looked at the likely outcomes for telling my university, I chose not to. They're well known for handling rape cases impossibly badly, and the victims often end up with any penalties that are handed out. Having said that, I've never heard anything half as bad as this before. I do sort of wonder if it's real. I handily proved that my attacker was lying, that the relationship occurred. One of the other charges was that it was sexual harassment, that I claimed we had a sexual relationship. So, he claims that he, an older man, had a prior sexual relationship with the young woman who allegedly assaulted him. I feel like it's odd that this is the only place that's mentioned, and that it is mentioned so briefly and almost obliquely. I was not allowed to submit evidence traditionally. I had to do that in a response letter in which I wrote an 86-page breakdown of the situation with included inline evidence that I citing at the hearing. This just sounds like straight-up crazy person. Schools 100% can and do screw over people who are sexually assaulted and harassed on campus. It happens all the time. All the time. I went into reading this expecting it to be yet another case of that. But I honestly don't know WTF this is. That is heartbreaking. Another recounting that includes considerably more detail about the Stalker X and the pool incident. https medium.com/@ZacharyFreeman52569/ my name is Zachary Freeman Andiama victim 387F5910CDF2. This sounds like a very reliable narrator. I somehow doubt that every possible authority in the university and out colluded to destroy this innocent man. If he was found guilty at every turn, odds are he is guilty. After all, why would a university protect a female student over a male professor? Especially if they could show that the teacher was innocent? No university would take the PR hit of admitting to a professor harassing a student if they didn't have to. This is why schools of any kind should not be involved with these matters at all. They are not equipped at all to be justice systems. Victims need to go to the police and hire a lawyer and not expect a school to be any kind of source for justice. Some news articles that appear that this gained some attention from Department of Education. It looks like. Check last link. His case is still pending for the Title X investigation if that is it. https projects.chronicle.com/TitleX/campus/Oglethorpe University/ https www.wsbtv.com/news/local/Oglethorpe University under investigation handling /273066621/ output type equals AMP https roughdraft@atlanta.com/2015/09/25/Oglethorpe University ADEDTOT sexual assault reporting probe /www.ed.gov/about/offices/lists/ocr/docs/investigations/open investigations/tix.html page equals 23 and offset equals 440.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Aircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.